bum. What up,
Hello.
guys? The
This
weather
is
tonight is 60 degrees of Fahrenheit.
this is HBO's Double Threat, a Succession, and Barry podcast.
You really like that name you came up with because you say it every time.
Well, that's the intro, Beck.
That's the intro. And you're
So
probably wondering why it's a bit warmer tonight because we're recording this on a Monday because
yeah,
Uri went to a party that got shut down by the cops.
yeah. Maybe I'll talk about that in a different episode.
We'll probably talk about it in a different episode.
Not in this show, but a
Not
different
in this
show.
show. This is only about 2 TV shows. You can't
So
talk about anything else.
today we'll be breaking down the 8th episode of season 4 of Succession, and the
6th episode of Barry.
So let's get into it. Instant thoughts for the Succession episode.
Should we give the recap first?
No, instant thoughts first.
Instant thoughts. Good episode.
Great.
I like the episodes where it's like there's following all the characters through this timeline of events, and this one follows that same style. Like the same as like Connor's wedding and something like that, where it's like a big event is happening and seeing how all the characters react to it.
Yeah, kind of like a one-act play in a way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, same thing. I thought it was very good. I really liked it. I actually wish I watched that instead of going to the fucking party, but
Wow.
yeah, I really liked it. It was very good, very cool. And yeah, so essentially last episode was the election night eve, which is called Tailgate. And this episode it was called America Decides, which ironically America did not decide.
Yeah.
It was decided by two assholes in a room.
You're gonna need to explain to me how that actually works, because I'm confused. But are we doing Barry first thoughts, or now we recap the episode?
We'll do analysis of Succession first, and then
okay,
Barry.
Plot recap.
This was, as I said, I was getting to it. This was an election episode, election night. Everything's really ramping down as they're kind of all in the room trying to decide how they're going to do because they have ATN, which is like the Fox News of the Succession world.
So they got news.
So they gotta do an election calls, and it's like that's a very high conduit for drama because like they have the product launch in our real world, which is conduit for drama, and so is like elections because that can decide the future of some states, like how the election will go.
Okay, explain to me how that works? Is they're reporting on this after the polls closed? So
it's just like because in our real world, it's like if things like. It depends on how it calls. It depends on how people see it.
Yeah, but everyone's already voted. It's not going to change anything.
Well, it's like it's kind of like how it's like it's how people perceive it. Like it will enact to violence and stuff like that. Like like kind of remember Trump, all that stuff, January 6th.
Yeah, kind of like I remember that we had something similar to that.
This episode, I felt like it was drawing heavily on those type of things.
It definitely was very reminiscent of like the 2020 election.
It felt like this episode was very stressful in that way. It felt like stressful. It's like an election night. It was so stressful. It's like Connor, like you said, Connor's wedding. It's a very stressful night, and it's like yeah. It's kind of like how it was very commenting on how these like news organizations kind of like control the narrative, let's just say, of how these elections come out, because like then it gets into disputes, because they even say they're gonna fight this Jared Mencken thing to say this is not real, and then they say it could take months after,
Yeah, because they basically like lied to try to get what they wanted. So the whole thing follows the family. We have Roman, who is just doing what is like best for the company and trying to get Mencken, who's like this like really right wing candidate to win, because he promised that he'd block the deal.
Block the Mattson deal. And so I was thinking we could actually go through, we can take the story of analysis through each character, and we'll break the story that way. So we'll go with Roman first, which he was a really big asshole this episode. He felt like he wants a fascist candidate to win,
No,
and like
he wants his company to do well. He's just
yeah.
fully focused on doing what he like doesn't care if like America falls apart as long as like they have a dude who's completely in their corner during
Mm,
like you could tell like also
yeah.
like the Democratic candidate that they had
Mm.
would not like
Jimenez.
give Kendall the time of day.
Hmm.
Like there
And
was
that's
like no
totally
communication. Yeah,
yeah.
and so at least for Mankin, they had like an open line of communication. They were like the first call after he won.
I agree. Roman this episode was very kind of like um was very straight focused. He had one motivation because
Yeah.
that's why he kept saying nothing matters, nothing matters.
Yeah.
And he was very I agree with what he said. It was like Roman is like he's just trying to would do what's best for the what well not really best for his company, what's best for him and Kendall because they wanted to block the deal.
Yeah, and he was literally just like, "Guys, we gotta say
We
all
gotta
this stuff."
we gotta get this Mencken era guy. We gotta get this
Yeah.
Mencken and essentially the succession world is now entering their Trump era, let's just say.
Yeah.
And wow, a bit tired there, Beck.
I am. Yeah, sadly, Uri made me film this at 2 a.m.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's two
so late at
a.m.
night. It's 2
So
a.m.,
late.
guys.
But
Okay.
and Roman, I felt like Roman was very kind of like this episode was him kind of posturing as Logan a bit because now there's something.
Yeah.
Do you remember this line that Kendall says to Logan? Like, I mean, the first season, he said, "You're just a high class hooker for presidents."
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what's happening with Roman right now. He's kind of becoming like a guy that has an in with the presidents.
Yeah, I mean, like, you definitely want a president in your corner that's like all that Roman's fighting for is like if we have someone in the West Wing, we basically like win.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of like the Logan method, you know. Just have a being, yeah. It's kind of amazing how we see like Roman is kind of just he feels Roman feels kind of very happy this episode because he's just trying to do what he wants in this goal, which is very Logan thing to do, you know. Just
Yeah.
doing whatever the fuck they want. Because Roman kind of this episode, nothing. He says nothing matters. He's kind of realizing that everyone is very simple, and everyone is just what they do what they want to do, and that he's kind of taking control of that, and that's why he just like straight after going like let's call it, let's fucking call it, let's fucking call
Yeah,
it.
like that whole voting center thing was pretty interesting, like because
Mm-hmm.
like they're like, okay, but like
A hundred
like
thousand ballots burned, but
yeah, and that would have been enough to change the tides, right?
yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I
So
thought, yeah. I thought it was really funny when the guy Ravenhead on the news said, "What? We have selective fires or something."
yeah.
And so Roman in this episode, I feel he comes off like being a worse person in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's
He
move
is
on
kind of
to.
painted as the villain a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
That you can
Mm-hmm.
like see where he's coming from. He's just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, okay, next character, probably
Kendall.
Kendall. He's very simple. I mean, he
This
doesn't have a
episode,
lot in this episode. He's like,
he doesn't have
my
a lot, but he's thinking more this episode. He's very slow because his entire arc this episode is like he's having more self-reflection than Logan ever did about being a father. He's realizing,
I'm a
am I a
bad
bad
father. Like he literally
father?
had like a van stalk his daughter.
Hmm. And that's him
Oh,
just realizing, and then that's what breaks my heart with the Shiv betrayal, because he was so vulnerable with Shiv, but for her to betray him, that makes him just like want to ruin the country just like that.
yeah.
It goes like automatically
I
back.
love,
Just
just Greg was just like savage in this episode. He's like, yeah,
Greg, we'll get to Greg, but I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
continuing with Kendall, it's like I found his conversation with Shiv to be heartbreaking because we both know that she's lying,
yeah.
and it's like we know like
And like
this.
it just like him. her like talking on the phone, and you can hear like the number you're trying to call has been disconnected.
Yeah, and it's like
And
it's
he's
it's it's brutal. It's just because Kendall has been the most honest he could be in this episode with himself, but due to this this backstab by Shiv, he flips on a dime like that, and that's why he's kind of like really hurt by Shiv's betrayal. Which I found that sequence where he finds out that Shiv betrayed him. I found that amazingly written. It's like
yeah,
he goes behind the glass, and then Greg, we'll get to Greg. Oh my! And then it's like she goes, "You're a piece of dirt, Shiv,"
yeah,
which almost feels kind of worse than a piece of shit.
yeah.
So what?
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. His big thing was just like the family stuff and like him growing really disconnected from the family through like what ATM's doing.
yeah, because throughout this entire show back, we never really see his fucking kids that much.
Yeah, and plus like because of filming schedules, they look way older.
Hmm.
Probably like a lot more time has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was felt, yeah. Let's get to, I think this was Shiv's episode, because she gets fucked from every turn here.
I think yeah, it's definitely a Shiv episode, and then really big focus on Tom. But we'll go to him next.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shiv's
Shiv.
episode was kind of like the destruction of her character, because, like,
Yeah,
first off, she, she's a liberal. She wants Jimenez to win,
she's the
but
liberals.
she's a liberal, but she's in a way that's like a kind of like a fake liberal. Like, she still wants Jimenez to win, but only for her gain, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean everyone wants to gain something.
I love I love how the show is portraying these characters as like they all think they're going to doing this for something, but they're all just
Yeah,
doing it for their own interest. Which is like I like how the show is portraying characters that are ultimately so simple minded, but they're just the story is just told in a complex way.
yeah, they're just all selfish.
I agree. And so Shiv, this episode, we're seeing a few good moments. We have this conversation with Tom, which was very significant because, like, it's that something they've become so broken that Tom doesn't even believe her when she's saying I'm pregnant,
Yeah, that was the big reveal.
and it's like it just gets washed away because this hatred that they've gone for each other,
You know
and
what's you know
yeah,
what's so funny? I guarantee there's like a vast majority of people this is the first time that they like think Shiv is actually pregnant.
oh
Because it
really?
was the hinting was really subtle in like the last episodes.
Yeah, I mean there was the conversation with the doctor on the phone.
Yeah, well, I didn't get that she was pregnant during that.
Yeah, um, and yeah. I like. I think I'll focus this on the Greg conversation, but include some of the shifts, like how she's trying to like intimidate Greg, and like she's still all of the kids are just posturing, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think about her like that conversation?
Yeah. Shiv Yeah, she kind of just like, lost everything
Mm-hmm.
throughout this episode. Like her deal with Matson falls apart because now Mankin is canceling the deal. She's
Mm-hmm.
lost her entire thing with Tom because like he was like, I'm pregnant, and then he just said nothing, and then he just like, you're lying, and then walked away. Her brothers now know she's betrayed her, so now
Mm-hmm.
she is done with
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
So she's kind of just all alone, and the only like real connection she has is with Matson. So that's going to lead to a lot of drama.
And even that, I feel like
That is
stingy.
so thin, yeah.
That is very thin. This
Like
show, yeah,
he's like refusing to like publish the numbers because he really doesn't want to, but Shiv really needs that to happen.
yeah. Another thing that this show does character reversals because they'll do something in one episode and they'll like flip it on a dime in this episode. But I say the way they're setting up for these final episodes, I feel like that's the way they're going to be set for the rest of the show. I feel like
Yeah, you can't have them flopping right before the finale.
I feel like in these final three episodes, next episode's Logan's funeral. It's
Yeah,
gonna
okay. So what we know the penultimate one is the funeral, but we don't know what like the final one premise is gonna be.
The 1 hour finale, yeah.
Yeah, wait, it's gonna be more than an hour, like an hour and a half is what you said, right?
One and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this might be the fundamental. I Shiv and Tom are still interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is kind of like a fundamental breaking between her and her siblings.
Yeah, that's the big.
Yeah,
It's
and
all
let's
about like the family breaks for
yeah.
this episode.
Speaking of siblings, let's quickly touch on Connor.
Wait,
Um,
Connor's in oh, he is. Yeah.
which is
Guys,
the thing
Connor
about
lost. What?
what?
Dude, no.
I didn't realize
No, guys.
Connor would
Dude,
lose.
why did Connor lose? He seemed like such a great guy. He was up in Kentucky.
I feel like sometimes this show is like almost meta about how their treatment is of Connor. Like the thing is, when the executives say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize Connor was running for president," it's kind of showing how the show doesn't even realize Connor's running for president because
Yeah.
Connor just is in his own world, not really caring about
Yeah.
anything.
He's
And I
like the
thought,
biggest
yeah,
satire of like the 1%.
because like he ends up just like being like some now he's gonna go to Slovenia or something. I don't know, like that.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, Connor is just gonna be what Connor does. Connor at the end of the day, he's never gonna be in the he's never gonna have like a really final ending. All the other characters they're gonna have some sort of like harsh ending to them, but Connor's gonna be Connor and
No.
live.
Connor is gonna cause an international incident and get
Oh
that
yeah,
country nuked. That's my
yeah,
prediction. If that happens,
yeah,
I'll give Uri $20.
yeah. But and so the thing about Connor is that like you know Connor at least with the other kids, Logan showed some level of affection, but he
Yeah.
just never gave a fuck about Connor, you know?
Yeah, well, he also is like he's way more separated from them because like they're
Half
like
sibling.
step siblings, right?
Half.
Half, yeah. Oh yeah, half.
And
Oh.
so Connor just gonna exist in his own little world. And I found it kind of like depressing in how he flipped back the moment he was starting to lose. Obviously he was never gonna win, but it's like it felt like a little embarrassing seeing him walk back to Roman.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Uh,
was like so confident, or like at least he just didn't want to resign. Like, dude, like if you would actually like gain something if you had just surrendered then.
mhm. And so that's just like the tragedy of Conor Roy. He's always just gonna be Conor will never actually want to do any of the work. He just wants the attention. So let's go on to Tom.
Tom, this one starts with him.
This episode is also kind of a Tom episode because it's focusing because he's the ATN guy, so he's
Yeah,
in charge
he's
of all of
the
it.
president of America
ATN.
Television Network.
What a thick name.
Yeah.
And so this episode was like as I continued, like the conversation, it's like it's Tom just trying to balance his life, like in like a post Logan world. He doesn't know what to do. He's just kind of struggling. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, he is just like he's like completely broken after the tailgating one, whereas everyone's like, yeah, he's gonna get fired. And then in this one, he's getting yelled at by everyone to like make sure it's the most viewed election in history. The touch screens keep breaking.
Yeah, I love that
He
touchscreen moment.
Yeah, he's like completely freaking out. The wasabi moment was so funny.
That
That
was
that was like
so funny.
that's like the funniest scene of like it's like up there in like the funniest scenes of the entire show.
It's lemony. It's lemon water.
Well, no, the thing is, I saw the LaCroix in the back, and I'm like, yeah, they're drinking LaCroix, and then he just comes in there, and they actually bring it up.
It's like a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. Also, the wasabi was like the sushi was brought up before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then but the Tom and Shiv thing, as I continue with this,
Yeah.
his point of view, it's like it's so broken that you got to a point where he can't believe anything she's saying because like
Yeah.
they've separated so far from each other. It's Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and then it's like he's gonna get to a place where I feel like it's not. I'm still holding out for some sort of like happy ending for Tom, but I don't. I feel like at the end of the day, Tom is just gonna maybe exist in his own bubble with an ATN or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. He also like he's getting like dunked on even more because of him calling the election extremely early and all
Hmm.
these calls he made
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, like the news is now dunking on him because yeah. So now basically everyone wants him fired. No one likes him.
It's like yeah. And so here's my favorite. Wait, before I'll get to my favorite character of the episode, Greg of
Yeah.
this episode. But first, I really just want to touch on Mink on Jared for a little bit.
Yeah.
I found it was like he was I expected him to be some sort of a Trump caricature, but he felt a little more smarter than that. He's still a fucking idiot fascist Republican, but
Yeah.
his speech in the end felt kind of like Hitler in a way that was
Yeah.
philosophical, but like in a very degrading, demonic way.
Yeah, I'm surprised he actually got that many votes. Like, so that was literally like a speech you would see a villain deliver. Because he is the villain. But, like, it's hard to believe that people, like, in the show's universe actually believe this is the guy that should be leading our country.
Yeah, it's really just commenting on our own world because he's an amalgamation of all these right wing figures, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I love this guy's the actor who plays him. His name is Justin Kirk, and I felt he did like a really great like he played him very well.
Yeah.
Up to a right tone of like voice, how he spoke, and like and the Republic
The
and freedom and
Republic.
stuff like that.
The Republic. He is the
I love
Senate.
democracy. Yeah. And so let me get to the dark horse of this episode, which I call Gregory Hirsch.
Yeah.
So Greg
Good
in
old
this
Greg.
episode, I felt like in this episode he was gaining more power as Tom was losing more power, you
Yeah,
know?
especially with him actually talking with
Matson and
Dude,
Kendall.
I blanked out his name. It's so stupid. Yeah, you talked with Matson. He like smoked weed with him or did coke. No, he did coke. Yeah, they did
Yeah,
coke
and
together.
I'm surprised Matson kind of like likes Greg more than I thought.
Yeah, cause like when they were at the retreat, he's like, "Who are you?" And then now like he is like the second closest with him.
Yeah, it's like Greg is like he's Greg is an incredibly awkward character, but and so that's why it's very hard to take him seriously. But in that conversation with Shiv, he's so fucking awkward, but in a way that like in a soulless way that's like I'll have you fired, and he just doesn't. He's not scared. He's not anything. He kind of just does like kind of like a shitting grin, and it's like he's just looking back, you
Yeah.
know. Which is my I don't know, Beck. What do you think about this? I feel like Greg is kind of like Greg takes what he learns from this entire world and kind of is like an amalgamation of all these characters. Like,
Yeah, he does get tossed around between everyone, so he's able to learn from all of them.
which is why he even takes. I don't know if you realize this. He takes Tom's advice in this episode. He says, "Take the information and use that to fuck somebody."
Yeah.
And so he took that information about Matson because he said, "What can you offer me, Shiv?" And she didn't offer him anything.
Yeah.
And then he used that information that she's working with Matson to fuck her.
Yep.
And so Greg is kind of like a person who's like learning all is incredibly great acting by that guy. As he's
Yeah.
moving through this entire world, he's getting all the correct bits of information and kind of like forcing to become kind of like the soulless corporate guy.
Yep.
And I don't know, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he has definitely changed a lot throughout the 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I do think his character arc's coming close, like, he is becoming, like, as powerful as some of the other siblings in the company. I mean, not in
Yeah,
terms of, like, money or, like, actual power, but he's able to, like, manipulate a lot of people and become just like them.
Yeah, and people can see that Greg is kind of power hungry, but no one really calls Greg out on this because he just always feels like there. He feels like anybody can talk to.
Yep. And then they think he's not gonna do anything because he's like this harmless guy, and then like, bam, her relationship with her brother is destroyed.
And then I love how maybe the fate of the country depending on Greg giving this information. You know, like when Jess talks to him.
Yep.
I really like that scene with Jess because like she doesn't get a lot of scenes throughout the show, but in that one scene with slight words, she's characterized as like a human, like a real person.
Yep.
And I don't know, but do you remember that scene?
Not the clearest.
So you know when they told Greg to call Arizona,
Yeah.
there he went down and he had like a conversation with Kendall's assistant.
Oh yeah, and she's like, "You can just wait."
Yeah, but that gave her a lot of characterization.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall a very tense episode. And I'm excited for where it's going to go. Any predictions?
Shiv might like join Matson's company and try to fight the brothers on on the buyout,
Mm-hmm.
and we could see that as maybe the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I see Roman crying at the funeral,
Probably he's the one that has to give the speech, right? We said that?
and he's repressing his emotions about Logan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing the speech is gonna go like he goes on. He's like has a pre-recorded. He has a pre thing. He throws that away. He says some random stuff off the cuff, probably insults like a couple of people, and then he breaks down, says true
Yeah,
stuff, and then probably walks away.
very Saul Goodman in the final episode of Better Call Saul
Yeah.
type of feel. But yeah, I'm excited. This show is always I can't tell where it's ever gonna go. So
Yeah.
I guess
I
next
mean,
best
they
thing is to talk.
could say that Logan was faking his death the entire time. That would be a
Mm-hmm.
really good ending. It'd be
You know, it'd
extremely
be
satisfying.
it'd be extremely
What?
satisfying. It's like someone's announced CEO. It's like they're about to do it's the last scene of the show. They're now about to announce the ultimate CEO,
Yeah?
and then it just cuts to black.
Yeah. Yeah, do a Sopranos.
Yeah. Well, in that mind, let's move on to Barry. Instant thoughts, Beck.
Instant thoughts. Kind of a mid-episode. There were good parts to it, I will admit.
It,
But
it's a much harder show to dissect than
no,
Succession.
there were some good meaty parts to this one.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes I just don't know what the fuck is going on in this show. You know?
Yeah. I think the first thing that I thought was really cool was just like watching Barry like jump between podcasts, just going deeper and deeper and like down a rabbit hole to get where it actually matches with his thoughts. To
Yeah,
finally like
that's like the core of this episode. I felt like it's him ultimately trying to convince himself to give him permission to
yeah.
kill, and that's what he says when that guy talks to him. Well, just in recap. Then in this episode, Barry's trying to go kill Gene Cousineau so he can stop this information. Obviously, he's continuing Barry to stop the movie. He's continuing that Barry is doesn't learn. No, Hank in the future has like a legitimate company,
Yeah,
I guess,
like a construction
which I found
company.
called NoHo Ball, which I found was
Yeah.
funny, which is a combination of NoHo and Crystal Ball.
Yeah. It was kind of sad, all the Hank stuff.
We'll get to the Hank stuff when
Yeah.
we dissect his character. And then Fuchs is out of prison. Like, yeah, I thought that
No,
was
the
funny.
Raven is out of prison.
The Raven is out of
That was
prison.
probably the funniest part of the episode, just like him with all the tats looking like very intimidating. You can tell
He just is.
the actor had so much fun with it.
And then just getting the Starbucks lady automatically to go marry him.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm a dad."
Yeah.
That was
provided
funny.
a lot of laughs.
I obviously we're like dumb ass high schoolers, but and I felt like I didn't understand the parts was going on with Sally, and that's what's made it most confusing for me. I understood what was happening, but I just felt I didn't like understand it more literally with like what's happening like going on with Sally.
Okay, so Sally is what we call an alcoholic.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like she is just the
I w-
worst person to
I
be like a
was
mother.
I was so spooked when that like the guy with the black suit
You know,
came
I
behind.
literally couldn't tell if it was a dream or not when I was first watching it. Like, is she dreaming or what is happening? And like some random dude, like a all black Halloween costume, is just for some reason at their house. Like that was pretty confusing for me. But okay, my favorite part of the episode was the scene of like the truck hitting the house and like how the whole
Yeah.
room tilted. That was an amazing shot.
It was an amazing shot, but what the fuck was it? It just
I
like
don't. Yeah, it's really confusing. We don't know who actually found them, who sent them.
this goes on to my hypothesis that Barry's such an artsy show.
Artsy. Yeah,
It's very like you just don't know what the fuck's going on sometimes, and that's good.
yeah.
But
Well, the one scene like that I've seen was the when he gets poisoned and he goes to that beach. That was pretty artsy for me.
yeah, yeah, that was very artsy. I like that they didn't kill Jean's son.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad of a wound. Like he was like completely fine.
Yeah, I mean it's been 8 years, so.
Yeah.
Let's start off with Barry as a character. So Barry in this episode, I felt like I liked him, but like he was definitely regressing back to his old ways. I feel like it's gonna be because my thing is that like there's only like a few ways that like a crime show can end. It's like whether like the character wins and gets redemption, or like loses and gets redemption, or it's kind of like Saul and like he's going to prison, but he got some redemption.
Yeah, he
I feel
lost
like
but got redemption.
I feel like Barry is going to be this type of guy who's going to lose and get no redemption.
Yeah. Because
I
I
feel like.
mean, like we know his motivations, but also we know he can't change. He's tried to like 3 separate times.
How much do you think Barry's going to come up like from after Jim Moss's conversation, just speaking German and eating gummy bears?
Yeah, that I really hope they do like this isn't gonna make any like just the entire episode is just them talking for like 23 minutes. That could
Yeah,
be a good episode. Something kind of
that
like
could be good. Yeah,
I don't know, not entirely like free churro, but you haven't seen BoJack Horseman, you're not gonna know what that means. Okay,
no,
like it's kind of like a guy, just like two guys talking about their
I
feelings
I like
during
those
this time.
episodes. Those are like good types of episodes. It's like that could be an episode about that where that's the confrontation, and then final episode. Because no, wait, why wouldn't Jim Moss just kill Barry instantly?
He wants to break Barry.
Yeah, like I love how like this episode is like he's just listening to like Christian podcasts, trying to convince
Yeah,
himself to like trying to convince him that it's okay to kill. And the moment because like Barry's at the end of the day, he's just longing for permission. Like Fuchs gave him permission to kill, and that's why he's killing. And now he's looking for this podcast, which is allowing him to kill.
yeah, and then he just finally gets told where the dude is just like saying, "Yeah, I'm a priest. I killed this guy because he looked at me the wrong way.
And he says, and it's like, bingo. But then it
It was
felt
a
like,
sign."
and but Barry doesn't fully go into that well because once he sees the kid, he's like
Yeah,
he's not gonna kill, which I guess is real. But I felt, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So Barry's totally lost yet.
yeah. I feel like Kusano is also like grown a lot.
Yeah, I feel like Kuzno is the most grown out of this character after like going to the kibbutz in Israel.
Yeah.
He's fully changed now. I feel. Because like
Yep.
old Kusuno would have wanted that movie to be made with him in it like 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
now, but now,
After killing his son.
but
Or not
now,
killing his son. No.
but now he's actually changed, and it's gonna be really sad if Barry gets his way.
Okay.
Did you ever feel like I felt like Barry had PTSD of getting like caught by the police, and that's why they when he was going to the house to kill Jean again, it was kind of remimicking the
Oh yeah,
ending of season 3 where he goes into the house, you know? And then he gets caught by Jim Moss again.
he does. Yeah,
It's like a
Jim
pattern
Moss like wants this dude's head on a platter.
because they weren't good. Jim Moss isn't going to stop, you know?
Yeah, he's
And it
like
just
he's like a very animated character. Like he only has one motivation this entire show, and that's to kill. Well, to like get revenge.
and it's kind of funny because like Jim Moss as a character fundamentally at the end of season 3, the last shot is of Jim Moss outside the
Yeah.
house and the picture of his like of Janice in the house. And
Yeah.
it's showing how that even if Barry dies, goes to prison, it doesn't matter because you can't bring Janice back alive. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You gotta face with what you're feeling, you know? And killing Barry isn't gonna do anything to stop that, you know?
Yeah.
It just that's the tragedy. It's like there's jokes in the show, but there's like a hidden tragedy under all of this. Most notably by our second character right now, Sally. She's having the hardest time I feel like in the show.
Yeah. She is just terrible. She gave her son vodka for some reason.
Make him sleep.
Yeah.
She's not a very good mother. She's having PTSD of killing the guy in season 3, and then she feels like she's on a path that she can't change,
Yeah.
and it's like another tragedy. No, Hank. Similarly, now we're getting to him.
He is like probably the most successful out of everyone, but maybe the most miserable because Cristobal's dead. And
Yeah.
then like literally Fuchs is just like, yeah, you killed him. Good job. You could tell he wanted to kill him.
hmm Yeah. No, Hank, because like he's lying to himself about is part of Cristobal's death. You know,
Yeah.
he's rejecting it, so he also doesn't have to come to terms with what he's dealing with, and that's this entire show. Nobody wants to come to terms with what they're feeling or dealing with. You know,
Yeah.
and so what's your take on Fuchs?
Fuchs. Definitely gonna be a pure comedy character for the rest of the show. They're not gonna like give him an arc or anything, I don't think.
Yeah, I felt like he was a good, funny character as an episode, but they could have ended his character in the prison thing.
Yeah. But I like his character was like pure comedy and it kind of needs that because it's way too much drama.
Yeah. They still have some Hollywood element with the movie being made. You know,
Yeah, but I don't know,
I don't know. I
it
feel like
feels too
you feel
self-referential for me, kind of a bit on the nose.
so you're going in a different way. You're kind of like leaning back from the show a bit, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, like they could bring it back in the next 2 episodes, but I don't know.
I but Barry has never been that type of show, you know. Maybe season 1 Barry, but it's like I feel like it's always kind of like going down this path. Like I feel like everything in Succession was leading up to that episode. I feel like Barry's also it doesn't lead to a specific episode, but it's like leading to always something darker.
Yeah, but I like to think of Barry more as this comedy than as this drama, and it's hard for me to get hooked on this because I don't know, depressing.
Yeah, but I feel like it makes sense for where the show's
It
headed.
does. It does. I mean, yeah. But
Yeah.
like if you were to like pitch like the log line to someone, an assassin tries to become a theater actor, it's like comedy, but then you show him like a season 4 episode and it's just this depressed guy with an alcoholic wife trying to raise their son and failing at it.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I liked how this episode kind of broadened his horizons to see how the other characters were what they were doing.
Yeah, I like seeing time jump and like how the characters adapt to that. I always think it's cool to see how everyone ended up.
Well, let's just give our predictions for what's going to happen.
Predictions. I want literally the entire episode to just be Jim Boss and Barry having an ethical discussion.
That could be cool, and I think like that could happen, and then the final episode is just him killing Barry, and then how everyone deals with that.
Uh, I think the final episode would more be like a showdown between everyone in like a parking lot or something.
Wow. Yeah, these two shows are like unpredictable beasts of television, though. You
Yep.
can't you can't deny
Yeah,
that.
I cannot pin down what's gonna happen in them.
Yeah. So this has been. Thanks for listening. This has
Oh
been
wait, who are we
HBO's.
giving the point to? I
Oh,
wonder.
Succession,
Hmm.
but
By
I
a
do love what Barry.
landslide victory.
Yeah, but I do still love what Barry's doing.
Yeah, but like not compared to this amazing Succession episode.
This was like a gobstopper. My dad yesterday when I was at the party,
Yeah,
you sent me insane episode of Succession, and
yeah.
my dad said also insane episode of Succession, and then it was like
You were just like, bro, why am I partying? I need to watch Succession.
I was like I want to watch Succession, but then like a fucking girls got drunk, so
Yeah.
cops
So they
party shut
saved.
down.
Did you watch it
Yeah,
last night?
no, I watched it like a
Like,
few hours ago.
oh, okay. All right. Well,
Anyway,
this has been Double Threat, an HBO Succession and Barry podcast.